Climate change. We've all heard of it, and climate activists have been warning us about 7 decades. And today I'm here to tell us how important this matter is and how pencil cases, putting a sheet of blanket on, and eating fresh food can help you from this disaster. So the 1760s to the 1840s was the time of the Industrial Revolution. And this time, Great Britain was the one who first found out that coal was going to be the next generation of the energy source. And this has sparked the problem that was going to come today, which is climate change, using too much petroleum and coal. Here is the graph of carbon emissions from 1750s till 2020. And we can see that from 1950s, the graph starts to skyrocket. And the cause of this is when it was in 1760s, Great Britain was the only country that was using coal as an energy source. However, in the 1950s, when climate activists were warning about carbon emissions and we're using too much of petroleum, that was the time when all the countries around the world were starting to develop. And we hope that the Earth is not going to be like this, but we've been treating our home and the Earth really harshly, and it's really hard to raise 1 degree Celsius of the Earth's average temperature. And it's in 1 second, we're dropping 4 atomic bombs for 200 years. So from 1800s till now, that's the amount of heat that we've created in our Earth's atmosphere. So this is just a refresher about how carbon dioxide functions. So when carbon dioxide is released in the air, the sun's rays come in to the atmosphere. Carbon dioxide acts like a piece of clothing in the winter. It's better to wear a piece of clothing than to wear nothing. So it's nice and warm in the winter, and it's going to limit the Earth from reaching the ice age. But when there's too much of the carbon dioxide or the clothing, then we're going to be hot, and that's what is going to be happening to the Earth. Yeah. And the tipping point. The tipping point is when the Earth reaches too high of the temperature. So when we reach 1.5 degrees Celsius of the Earth's average temperature, so when it is 1.5 degrees Celsius higher, then we're going to reach the tipping point. So you name all the disasters like wildfires, earthquakes, tsunamis. These natural disasters are going to come even stronger than before. And when they come, it's not that the natural disasters are going to kill us, but what actually is going to make us suffer is the food chain. So these are some marine animals, and what I want to focus is on the shelled creatures. So the shelled creatures have shells on it, yeah, of course, but many people don't know that the ocean is going to absorb carbon emissions from the atmosphere. That's quite interesting. And when the ocean absorbs that carbon emission, what happens to the creatures inside it is that their shells are going to be it's going to be harder to form. So this is straightly related to the survival rates of the shelled creatures, and this will eventually lead up to us. So these shelled creatures are in the bottom of the food chain, and we're at the highest, one of the highest in the food chain. So when the bottom gets messed up or has some trouble in it, then we're going to eventually have that trouble as well. So what's the solution? Well, it is to not raise our Earth's average temperature. Here are some pie diagrams of how carbon emissions are, or wait, how carbon dioxide carbon is used, and the two categories that I thought was going to be the easiest to reduce carbon emissions are space heating and others. So space heating. Are you going to put on a sheet of blanket instead of putting the heater on? Yes or no? That's a simple choice. And others. Do we actually need to buy something that we already have? I don't think so. And COP26 is an organization of 26 countries, and they are working on to make net zero by 2050. And China is one of our one of the countries that produce most carbon emissions, and China is going to work on to make net zero by 2060. So I told you about some really easy ways to reduce carbon emission. It is less shopping or less buying stuff, and wearing blankets instead of turning on heaters. And one more thing is very simple, we can do it every day. It is eating fresh food. Fresh food is something that we don't recognize as really essential, because we can eat a hamburger from McDonald's and our meal will be done. But fresh food doesn't have pesticides in it, or it doesn't have chemical things in it. So fresh food is good for our health and the soil and also the plant. So these three things that I told you about the solutions for us to do. So we can't do as much for human because we don't have that much money to spend, and we're not like country representatives. But these really simple stuff can lead us to saving the country, and saving our country and the world. So what I really want to tell you is, it's our responsibility that we solve this problem. And this problem that we have today is caused by our ancestors, and that is why we have to solve it more. So when you do some homework and you finish it by time, then there's some sort of a reward, like you get praise from your parents and your teachers. Or in the flip side, if you don't do it, then there are some sort of punishments. So in this case, the punishments are going to be maybe leaving the earth. So if we don't want to leave the earth, or don't want our home place to be ruined, then I think we should practice these three steps. And let's make the earth habitable for the later generations to come. Thank you.